Earlier this summer, Netflix brought Crop Demon Hunters to theaters following its streaming success. And Seth Schachner, managing director at Strat Americas, told our Ashley Mastronardi why the platform, quote, broke their rules, end quote, and gave us a big picture look at the streaming space. Let's take a look.
It's a picture that I think is touching a lot of nerves, both with young people and with families. And it's as much a music thing as it is a film thing. But, Netflix has traditionally, not liked movie theaters. And, Ted Sarandos and the executives there have been actually pretty clear about not releasing movies in theaters over time. They want to serve their own audience. And they've kind of traditionally done it just to get movies qualified for the Oscars. But this is something that, maybe not so different from what Taylor Swift did or Beyonce did after their tours, where there's something that's touching a little bit of a nerve and it's got a little bit of a social component, maybe hitting the zeitgeist, if you will. And so they're going out reasonably widely with it, and they did a really nice weekend last weekend, basically, with it. So it's kind of special, and I read it mostly as a cool marketing event. It probably came from maybe the CMO rather than the releasing people, but it's great stuff.
And can you take us through what that expanded release and rollout looked like?
Well, it started as a Netflix program. It's going to still be on there, and it's been shattering all their records. And, I'd also mention there's a great musical component, a soundtrack to it as well that Universal's got. And they clearly saw a lot of traction for it. And I think they thought, look, this is a chance to do something that shows us as more than just a streaming service. It's a social event. And I think it's in 1,700, motion picture theaters right now. It's not in AMC, because Netflix has this sort of theatrical window that they usually, they ask for exclusivity that the theater chains do, and they didn't agree to that. So it's in 2 of the 3 big ones. But very, very positive first weekend. But I wouldn't, personally put too much in the theatrical release. I think they're going to revert to form and probably pull it back eventually. That's just me.
So your opinion is you think this is a one-off and this isn't, they may not do this in the future?
I think it's going to be more of a one-off kind of marketing thing personally. But, look, if you're really asking me deep down and looking what it could be, there's a ton of interplay between theaters and streaming and all sorts of other stuff, music, live events as well. And if you look back over time, I mentioned Taylor Swift, Beyonce's done something like this, One Direction, Bieber, even going way back into rock history, bands like The Who had event things like Tommy. So, I'd love to see more of this, and if I think their marketers are looking at it, probably they could be doing it in the future, but it's kind of a one-off.
Well, and do you think the toggling between theaters and streaming, do you think other streamers might jump on that bandwagon?
I would hope so, because I think, I'm based in LA, and in Hollywood, movie theaters are still the very basis of why some people make movies, and, they were the heart of the reason movie making existed for many, many years, and there's still a communal aspect. People are going into this one to sing, families are, it's really engaging, so yeah, I hope that there is, basically. But it's sort of hard to look at the landscape right now with all the streaming options, and theaters are in a very tough spot, generally speaking, so I wouldn't put too high hopes in it.
And what lesson do you think this provides for studios?
Look, there's a bunch of lessons. Let me start with the downside. I worked at Sony for many years on the music company, but the motion picture company kind of did, I don't know if I would call it a great deal, but they did an output deal with Netflix, which included this picture. And their upside on it financially is very, very limited. So if you're really looking at it from how to make money with new properties and you're a studio, this is one you maybe want to take a lesson on in terms of the business model, because they're leaving a lot on the table from this one. But, I think with just this concept generally, and we've seen it with Minecraft this year, if you can tap into whether it's Gen Z or a certain, demographic where the picture, the content really resonates. And this picture's got, Asian audiences are loving it, American Asian audiences. There's a way to position K-pop much more broadly than just a Korean genre, if you will. And it's got a lot of bright, happy lessons that are in it as well. So it's really touching a nerve. And, I would bet other studios are looking at this and saying, gee, how can we copy it?
And to stay on the topic of streamers, ESPN recently launched DTC Streamer and an enhanced version of their app. They even rang the opening bell here here at the New York Stock
cool.
Exchange. Why do you think this is like an inflection point for sports?
Well, there's sports rights keep going up and up and up, and sports. I mean, pretty much every one of us are sports fans. There's still a huge appetite for streaming live events, and I think there's just so much of it right now. And I think what you're seeing right now is Disney and ESPN trying to figure out ways to make ESPN streaming app as great as they possibly can. They've got this new deal with the NFL, and the Red Zone are going into it. And so I think that's probably the next wave, of where streaming content's going to be landing. I mean, frankly, there's a lot of options right now. I don't know where you want to spend your money, but that one looks really, really strong. There's a bundle with, I think Fox has got a new one called Fox One as well. So if you're into sports and you can spend a little money, I think you can get pretty much just about every game in every league in some of these apps now.
Can you talk more about that bundle with ESPN and Fox?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're trying to do, I think that's going to be a $40 bundle for an additional upsell on it. And this is, bundling in general, sports also with things like just entertainment, is probably one of the biggest ways to kind of hook consumers and get them to stay on it. Because if you're hooked to MLB games, or you're getting all your NFL games, in the case of the new ESPN app, you're going to get all their linear channels now as well, which is a first for them. You're probably less likely to quit and buy another one because there's so many different choices. That's the essence of it. But bundles are generally speaking decent bargains and good ways to stay hooked.
Thanks again to Seth Schachner and Ashley Mastronardi for that interview.